And good evening, welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live on news up at 10. Desawe Kanda, so live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook. DSV channel 279. All across the videos upon this 9 days to decision date December 7 here on your election command center tonight. Does the signing of a peace pact guarantee a peaceful election? Divergent views on this particular question. What more? And what else beyond the signing of the peace pact today? That's the question that many have been asking. We have details of the peace pact signed by the political parties and the key election stakeholders, as well as a conversation on what this means. Stay with us. Also, we ask, is a chapter closed on those who lost their lives, those 8 persons who lost their lives in the 2020 general elections? Because as we speak, there's no updates on the murderers of these persons from the Ghana Police Service. Stay with us. Also, we continue our campaign against rejected ballots, highlighting why all must be concerned about this phenomenon in our elections in this country. As always, you're an integral part of the conversation. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using is GhanaTonight on Facebook and on X. Let's get talking. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
A former special representative of the United Nations Security General for West Africa, Dr. Mohamed Ibn Chambers, is cautioning against complacency ahead of Ghana's December 7 elections. Speaking after the signing of a peace pact, he emphasized that the mere act of signing the pact was not enough to guarantee peace, urging all stakeholders to remain vigilant and proactive in upholding their commitments.
The weight of the burden has shifted to the Electoral Commission, to the Ghana Police Service, and supporting security agencies, party and other political activists, the media, and the judiciary. There can be no complacency. Ghana's past successes are no guarantee or assurance of current or future performance. Nothing should be taken for granted.
The National Election Security Task Force has assured that it will not allow miscreants to disrupt the peace of the country during or after the December 7 elections. At a stakeholder meeting with labor unions on Thursday, a security plan was outlined, including comprehensive deployment details for all identified flashpoints.
For this election and beyond, the blueprint we have developed for the first time in the history of this country to mainstream election security into the totality of security arrangement and make election security a process and not an event, we have 30 years from now in mind.
A media coalition comprising the Ghana Journalists Association and the Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association have described the move by the Electoral Commission to restrict media access to election coverage as a threat to transparency, accountability, and credible reporting. At a press conference in Accra, the coalition called on the EC to give unfettered access to the media.
The EC must give unfettered access to the media at all the levels of voting and collation of ballots. The parties agreed that GJA and GIBA should present a proposal to the EC on the way forward, which we are working on as we speak to you. We believe restricting access to the media will not be in the best interest of transparency, accountability, and access to information, which is always a major partnership essential for these elections.
The former national chairman of the National Democratic Congress, Samuel Fusu Ampofu, has charged the people of the Guan constituency to express their anger on December 7 by voting 100% for the NDC. According to him, it was unfair for the people of Santro Kofi, Akpafu, Lolobi and Likwe to be denied representation in parliament, resulting in underdevelopment in those areas.
7 December 2024, go there with all the anger in your heart and your hands and go and vote for John Dramani Mahama to become President of the Republic of Ghana. The government has denied you your representation and your development. Because if you have an MP for 4 years, the MP for every year will get the MP share of the common fund and use that common fund to supplement the district fund to develop the constituency.
The vice presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party has hinted of plans to position auto mechanics with skills to properly handle electric vehicles. At an engagement with artisans at the Swami magazine to spell out government plans for them, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh said the decision is to ensure that they are not put out of business when the country finally switches to electric vehicles.
There are 17,000 electric vehicles in Ghana. It is a magazine for early training of one. Therefore, and then I can hold the state training garage will be now. Say, I go forward to the petrol car, not the gas cylinder out to me. In your answer, your baby, yeah, I can't let them my agent to my now because of the deal. That is in a buying you that yeah.
It's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, we have a conversation on the minds of many of you out there, and this we monitored on the conversation ahead of tonight. Does the signing of the Peace Pact guarantee a peaceful election? That's a question that dominated a number of you commenting on what happened. That's the late hours of this afternoon, earlier today. What more and what else beyond the signing of the Peace Pact? We've got the details of this Peace Pact signed by the political parties and the key election stakeholders, as well as a conversation on really what this means, what has to be done going forward. A number of persons spoke at this all-important event earlier today. The Chief Justice spoke at the signing, as a signing of their commitment to a peaceful election. All presidential candidates, 12 of them, and other stakeholders in our election space in this country made statements in commitment to the peace of this country before, during, and after election 2024, some 9 days away from today. First off, let's hear from the former Special Representative of the United Nations Secretary General to West Africa, who is currently African Union representative for silencing the guns. So that's Mohammed Ibn Chambers.
Speakers have eloquently spoken about the shared and common responsibility of all stakeholders to ensure credible, open, participative, inclusive elections, whose results no one can have justifiable cause to reject. That is the pathway to peaceful elections. But let me emphasize that with just 9 days to the elections of December 7, the weight of the burden has shifted to the Electoral Commission, to the Ghana Police Service and supporting security agencies, party and other political activists, the media, and the judiciary. There can be no complacency. Ghana's past successes are no guarantee or assurance of current or future performance. Of course, we have been very much reassured from what we have heard from the IG and from the Electoral Commissioner, and indeed from her ladyship. Nothing should be taken for granted. There should be no room for complacency. The EC must operate transparently to allay the concerns of its critics or skeptics. Security agencies must rise up to high professional standards, be neutral in their operations, and act decisively against those who seek to disrupt the process without selectivity, fear, or favor. The media, especially social media.
That's Dr. Mohammed Ibn Chambers there, and find a full complement of what he said. Very important in there on 3news.com. Also, the flag bearer of the NPP, the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, spoke before the signing of the Peace Pact today. Take a look.
Democracy goes beyond periodic elections. However, in relatively young democracies like ours, every election presents an opportunity to reaffirm our commitment to the Constitution and the rule of law. So far, each time we head to the polls, we have passed the test. We have shown that it is possible to rise above our differences and unite for the sake of our country. As we head into the December 2024 polls, the 9th presidential election in Ghana, 9 days from today, I am certain of two outcomes. Ghana will win and peace will reign.
So that's Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, the flag bearer of the NPP there, and also the Vice President. We had all the others, in fact, all 12 who are going to be on the ballot paper for the presidential election. They all signed, shared a few words. We're going to hear from John Dramani Mahama as well, who had some words to share as well on this Peace Pact and beyond. So beyond the signing of this Peace Pact, this is not the first time we're doing this, but this is the fourth time. So we're on this path of signing the Peace Pact. So beyond this all-important ceremony today, what next? In the next 9 days ahead of us and beyond, as a matter of fact, this crucial election. But I'm just going to show you this. This picture that was captured earlier today. Some of us who are at the ceremony saw this. Take a look. And you had, John Mahama and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia exchanging some pleasantries in the presence of the Minister for Chieftaincy, Stephen Asamoah Boateng, and other persons as well, who accompanied both of them to this all-important event. But beyond this very crucial exhibition of commitment to peace, which obviously sends a signal to those who are following these personalities and persons seeking to lead us as a country. John Mahama had this to say. We're going to be joined shortly by statesman Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo. But this is what John Mahama had to say as well. Take a look.
However, it is all well and good for us to commit to peace and recite beautiful platitudes. All the efforts at building peace before, during, and after the 2024 elections would come to naught or be undermined if there is mistrust and insincerity. Mistrust is built through a mismatch between words and gaslighting on the part of those in authority. There is reason to be concerned that the signing of this pact, though well-intentioned, could amount to nothing if it is not followed by concrete actions to guarantee the peace by the stakeholders and government. Events and happenings during the last election and during the Awaso West Wogon by-election create considerable doubts about the genuineness of some of the commitments that we might make today. We all recall the appalling spectacle of mass men acting on the orders of operatives of government, shooting indiscriminately at innocent Ghanaians, going about their legitimate electoral activity during that by-election. Some of the victims of that shooting incident remain incapacitated up till now. The refusal by government to act on the recommendations of the Emil Short Committee do not inspire confidence in Ghanaians that government truly believes in peace. Again, the inaction of government in the face of the murder of 8 of our citizens during the last election casts a shadow of doubt on government's commitment to maintain the peace. How are we to believe that such killings will not reoccur during this election as well? There also remains the vexed question of the use of thugs dressed in security service uniforms to intimidate and brutalize citizens during elections. How can we tell these thugs from the professional members of the security services, especially when they carry no name tags and they conceal their faces with facial masks, popularly called Azugu masks?
That's John Mahama there, and Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo, is a statesman, member of the NPP. The fund members is joining us right now. Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. First off, this much anticipated peace pact has been signed now for the greater good. But then again, would you also tie in to those who are asking questions about beyond today, then what next? What would you expect to see beyond the signing of the peace pact today?
Well, I think that there's one thing that we all have to be careful about. Yes, these peace pacts have been signed for the past, I think this is the 4th time, if my memory could serve me right. And we have unfortunately seen what has happened, even though these peace pacts have been signed. I personally don't believe that just putting a pen to paper means anything. Peace, you can't have justice without peace. Nowhere in the world can you have justice without peace. Or you can't have justice without peace. We have signed this pact, as I said earlier on several occasions, and yet there have been serious malfeasance to the extent that people lost their life. Recently, as recent as possible, I think in 2020, 8 people lost their lives, and nothing was done about it. Absolutely nothing. So I asked myself at that time, what were the religious bodies doing and those responsible for this sort of pacts? Nothing has happened. Government did nothing, and they did nothing. Now, there's one thing a lot of us have forgotten. As I speak to you now, we have within the system militias. They are militias. What is going to be done about this militia? Have they been talked to? Have they been seen by the security agencies? Have they been seen even by those responsible for them to have them disbanded? They are there. I'm talking about what I know is in place. Now, if we are not going to put these militias out of function, and we allow them to work in the interest of certain interest groups and even government organizations, then we are wasting our time. Now, militias all over the world that I have known since the time of Adolf Hitler has never served anything very good to the state, nor the leader of that state. They have been destructive, and they ended up in always destroying the nation. And I think this is what we have to watch carefully. We have militias in place. I know what I'm talking about. They are there. And the political parties who are keeping these militias must be honest with themselves. Now, with the militias around, anything we put on paper is just useful.
I see. You talk about the knowledge that you have of militias brought into this country by political parties ahead of this election. I'm going to get into that, but there have been calls, and you touched on it briefly, calls continuously by, in fact, people who are watching us right now about the persons who were behind the killing of these 8 people during the 2020 general elections. As we speak, there's no update as to whether they have been arrested or not. We do not know. They have not been arrested because there's no record of that. We don't have any latest update from the investigative body on this particular incident that happened 4 years ago. Now, at least to serve as a deterrent to some persons who would probably be nursing that same idea of fomenting trouble, causing trouble in this election 9 days away from today. To the extent that these persons have not been identified and punished to serve as a deterrent, does that create any source of concern for you?
It is. It is very concerning. 4 good years, not even a single church has come out to condemn it vehemently and call on government to have it, to have those who were involved in these heinous crimes prosecuted. No one has done anything about it. 8 poor souls are gone, and we have a government in place. 8 poor souls have gone, and we have religious leaders who claim they are the religious heads of this nation. Nothing has been done. 4 years has passed, and no one has been brought to justice. What is the police doing? Is that well beyond their their ability? I don't believe so. The police have been quiet because they have not been told to be quiet. And as for the IGP, I personally will tell him straight in the face that he should not think he's dealing with ordinary people in this country. This country has seen IGPs before, long before he came. Right down after the colonial era. From Majite to him now. Majite has been a strong police commissioner. I was then a kid, but I remember. And others. Now, he shouldn't think he will come just to talk English. And that is his work. Everybody in this country is watching him. And he fails to do his duty. What will happen? He won't believe it.
In fact, the flag bearer of the NDC, in the same speech that we played, Dr. GhanaTonight, has suggested that the IGP should, in his view, instruct the arrest and detention of persons who show up in masks and in any form of uniform that has not been sanctioned because he heads the election task force going into this particular election. It is a call that you would support.
I made mention of those in masks and quasi police or military uniform. We saw them at Ayawaso. We saw them. What is their duties? Who sent them there? And we noticed that a military officer came out to claim that he was responsible. Recently, what I heard was that that military officer had been promoted to the rank of Brigadier General. If that is true, then I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this evening, that this country is sitting on the time bomb.
Dr. GhanaTonight, do appreciate your time and your contribution to this all-important conversation tonight. Thank you very much. He is a founder member of the MPP and also statesman. Dr. GhanaTonight, Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. Let's stay a bit further on this matter of election and election security, just a bit away from the Peace Pact, but the underlying issue of security question is, and that's what Dr. Nyao Tamaklo just touched on, if the chapter is closed, and it's coming up next, the chapter is closed on those who lost their lives in the 2020 general elections and the matter of election security. That's coming up next here on Ghana Tonight. And we'll have a conversation on this and more. And what we do know is that some 8 persons who lost their life. The record has been 8 persons, but there's a lot that happened in that 2020 election. While a peace pact has been signed for peaceful election, the question still remains if anyone or any other persons who suffered one act of violence leading to their sustaining some various degree of injury or even death still have had questions answered as to justice served them or not. You cannot also ignore that. What we do know is that these persons, this incident that happened in 2020 in the Odododio constituency, Rita Otu, 15 years of age. Rita was not even of age to take part in the election. She was shot during a fracas along the streets in the Odododio constituency during the 2020 elections. Rita is gone. As we speak, no records so far of the persons who did this, and they've been arrested and prosecuted. Emmanuel Dompre, 37 years of age, a postman, a polling agent, also in the Odododio constituency, was shot during the fracas on the streets, also in the Odododio constituency. And then we have 30-year-old Ibrahim Abbas, self-employed, shot at the Odoko Police Church Coalition Center. And then also Tajuddin Al-Hassan, 39 years of age. Tajuddin was a driver, shot at the Bono Chempem Hall Coalition Center in Techiman South. Techiman South is in the Bono East region. Now, Tajuddin Al-Hassan is part of these 8 persons we're talking about. The persons we mentioned earlier, Rita and Emmanuel Dompre, are those persons who also suffered these injuries during that particular election. And also what happened in Ablekuma Central, Ibrahim Abbas, 30-year-old, was shot at the Odoko Police Church Coalition Center in Ablekuma Central. Then you have 18-year-old Abdallah Ayarik, who was also shot. He was an electrician, was shot in Techiman South in the Bono East region at the same Coalition Center Hall where this incident happened. Is part of the 8 persons we're talking about who died. And then also there's Samira Zakaria, 15 years old, who was hit by a bullet at the NDC party office in Savelugu in the northern region. No records as yet of any prosecution. And then Fosein Musa, 15 years old, a student, also was hit by a bullet, the same in Savelugu in the northern region. Now, we have a video, just to recall, 2 years ago, when my colleague then, Komla Dom, went to this Techiman South and Techiman North areas, where to speak to them in these 2 constituencies, what exactly happened, and the specific focus in the Techiman South constituency and the violence that led to the death of these persons there. Take a look.
Womushoto no tofum. Nan san was susa. And to what tofum no. And a womusadi puton born ha. And a pianich. Until me pajaman who saw the one me dear America. And me cornso. Me call me pajano. No man was police in Sasadi to no be. And me jack when me see welcome me bano. Who be come couple. Then I mean a bit to Yauka.
Kadomo said Dumano. Yankopon huomo. Nyame tumi nti se wono ya anye na asie no na ni kaisi ho na wokokwan so omo hyede na omo ye no watimi aboni patu ama na be pia ha wabo ha pia ha.
Dr. Adambona is a security analyst. He's joining us right now. Dr. Adambona, appreciate you. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. First off, there's a quick one on this, the impact and importance of this peace pact and what has to be done going forward, bearing in mind all of these incidents that happened in 2020.
Well, yes. Good evening, Alfred, and your viewers. Well, I think what needs to be done, which wasn't done in the 2020 elections, has to do with engagements. You'll notice that prior to the 2020 elections, close to 0 engagements were held. Then IGP Opombuenu and his team, there weren't that much engagements. If there was any at all, I don't remember. And so I think that fast forward to 2024, the level of engagement Dampare and his team, Dr. Dampare and his team, you can see them. It looks like it's a daily affair, engaging everyone, including the media. And so I want to believe that if everything checks out, these elections, looking at what the measures they've put in place, would pass, to be very peaceful, despite some of the concerns some of us have raised. And as we speak this evening, even though a peace pact has been signed, I am receiving intel from my sources in the Western region. I would want probably the Western Regional Minister to, say it is not legitimate. It's a question. Has there been any meeting? I'm just asking question. Has there been any meeting this evening between the Western Regional Minister? These are questions, probably rhetorical questions. This evening, has there been any, meeting between the Western Regional Minister and security officers around the African Beach area? About 200 of them. Mine is that I think as much as they sign this peace pact, I'm only asking question. Has there been anything like that this evening? My sources, in fact, sent me a lot of information while they were at the meeting and what was being discussed and when they allegedly, so these are questions. Were they given 200 Ghana cedis when they were departing the meeting? What was the meeting for? The meeting involved the Air Force, the police, and, the Navy and all manner of security personnel in the vicinity. These are questions I'm asking. And so probably let's wait and see whether there will be answers. But like I'm saying, we owe it as a duty as a nation to be alert. And when these things are happening, let's share amongst one another and ask questions. We can only ask questions from now on so that the powers that be would address them. Right. And so for me, I think a lot is being done by the IGP and his
but to the extent that fair point, then we'll wait for the detail coming through as you indicated. But to the extent that these persons who were killed, we don't have any records of persons being prosecuted for that. Is it not concerning for you?
It's very concerning, you see, and I say hypocritically, the Chief Justice, Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice witnessed the documents that is signed today. The Chief Justice closed down courts in the Boku area, all the courts in the Boku area. And some of us have been raising legitimate questions about that.
Okay.
And so how good is that? People died in Techiman. We haven't brought those cases. We haven't closed them up yet. The chapters haven't been closed. People were beaten in Ayawasu West Wagon. The report with the white paper was whitewashed by the presidency. They haven't had any, call them compensation as recommended by, the justices who met, led by Emil Schott.
Okay.
Up to today, they haven't received any compensation. So as far as I was invited to be at this meeting today, but for some reasons I thought I shouldn't.
Okay.
And I had a good reason for thinking I shouldn't, because you see, it's voluntary. It's not mandatory. They are, even though I see it to be something that we must do it for the optics, if you ask me. Because 2020, this same thing was signed. And go in there and see. The difference will just be the personalities who are signing and witnessing.
Okay.
But as far as I'm concerned, with the deaths, the media were there, telecasted it for us to see. And in 2020 elections, people died.
Well,
and up to today, we still don't know what has happened to those who committed those atrocities.
We'll see how the coming days will look like on this matter.
Double has not been, no one has spoken about it up to today after the incident.
Dr. Damona, appreciate you. And stay with us here on Ghana Tonight. We'll be back shortly. Before you know it, after this quick break, we'll get into the matters of the sport ballot. Stay with us.
You know, one bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint, superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior. You know, one bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint, superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior.
Fellow Ghanaians, President Akufo-Addo has refused to sign the anti-gay bill passed by Parliament to protect the family values and innocence of our children. Vice President Bawumia watches on while paying lip service to protecting Ghanaian cultural values and her future. Clearly, the future of our children is at risk under the MPP. The December 7 election is a choice between the NDC that truly believes in the promotion of proper human sexual rights and family values for the protection of the innocence and future of our children, and the MPP that supports the promotion of LGBTQ++, hence the refusal of their leader to sign the anti-gay bill into law. Say no to homosexuality and gayism by voting wisely. The MPP will allow gayism and the NDC will prevent it. Your vote is your power and chance to protect your children's future. Vote for change. Vote for John Mahama and the NDC. Fellow Ghanaians, President Akufo-Addo has refused to sign the anti-gay bill passed by Parliament to protect the family values and innocence of our children. Vice President Bawumia watches on while paying lip service to protecting Ghanaian cultural values and her future. Clearly, the future of our children is at risk under the MPP. The December 7 election is a choice between the NDC that truly believes in the promotion of proper human sexual rights and family values for the protection of the innocence and future of our children, and the MPP that supports the promotion of LGBTQ++, hence the refusal of their leader to sign the anti-gay bill into law. Say no to homosexuality and gayism by voting wisely. The MPP will allow gayism and the NDC will prevent it. Your vote is your power and chance to protect your children's future. Vote for change. Vote for John Mahama and the NDC.
Everybody knows Acrobato. And if you know Acrobato, it means you know M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic. M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic is my pillar. Let's hear what others are saying about M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic. Who will be careful M-Punch one?
Chesena me ankasa me period no say problems wom ntina ma wo ho idea ma me papa chesena nya asem ketewa na me coin point no mo hwe me modam no mo hwe bibia na so mo meduro me fire no ene ma won kura me enu foforo kwa na me kwan mu a eba head everything yourself
me ma me no adwodwo eda ho a wontumi nante ene ne ko end point o mama nuru a ene ne ho idea watimi asori anante.
That's end point for you. Hello. Hey, ohwehwe what che okay a free bra wo di end point what dance am me call you no me Johnson sema na enkoyie person ma yemre nyina na magina sebema na me be fear for there e ho na nyina jaresa. You heard everything. I have secret. M-Punch is my secret. M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic. I'm free.
Hey, Cha, once again you're welcome. Hey, how is my nephew?
By God's grace, he's well. It's the reason why I came here today. Opa, thank you for sending us money the last time. It was very useful. As I sent it to your nephew in school to be buying food small. You already know the feeding challenges with SHS these days. He's already home for vacation. And I need some help to enroll him in private classes.
But he just left for school a few weeks ago. I mean, as for this your traffic light system, I don't understand. And we have to cough money for extra classes in this economy.
Look, it's unfortunate the way we are playing with the future of these children.
Yes.
This free senior high school program needs to be improved.
And that is where John Mahama comes in.
They say he's coming to cancel the free SHS when he comes home.
How can the person who started the progressively free SHS program cancel it? Rather, he is going to maintain and improve it by abolishing the double track system, providing dedicated source of funding, and include the private senior high schools in the program. You know, he's also going to decentralize and improve the food procurement to make sure that our children can eat good food while they're in school.
Money can breathe.
I'm going to campaign for John Mahama because I want quality free SHS for my children. Enough of the traffic lights.
Vote for change. Vote for John Mahama and the NDC.
Black Friday, Black Friday, Black Friday, Black Friday, reduction sales, so more appliances. Deep freezers in the microwave, TV in the sound system, air conditioning cooker, Black Friday, home electronic appliances, Black Friday, Black Friday, Black Friday, Black Friday, reduction sales, so more appliances.
Prices now your local. Cap from Black Friday Super Sale up until 6th December 2024.
Papa Sammy, I beg if you find something small, give us.
Bro Sammy, you see, no be say boys no one do nothing and just they rely on handouts. Just to know deep.
I understand the hassle. Hope they come. John Mahama they come do the National Apprenticeship Program where he go sort you guys.
Brother Sammy, waiting with that.
John Mahama knows say no be everybody way won't work for office.
Like me.
That one day is true.
Under the National Apprenticeship Program, young men and women where they won't learn craft will be enrolled under the program and attached to a senior craftsman who will train them for free.
I beg you, mechanic day inside. Me like this, I don't want to learn mechanical, but the course no.
Mechanics day inside. Organizing, dressmaking, fabric making, catering, hairdressing, tiling, painting. What they even sweet about this whole thing, they say, when you plead, the NDC government go make sure say they go give you certificate where you go fit take go look for job anywhere.
That's sweet. Oh, that's be wonderful.
Another wonderful thing be say, when you plead, the NDC government go set you up with startup capital and equipment to make sure you can start your own business.
Wow! I dey go shopping my town wait 7th December.
Vote for change. Vote for John Mahama and the NDC.
Welcome back here on your Election Command Center. We continue, because coming up next, we continue a campaign against rejected ballots, highlighting why all must be concerned about this phenomenon of rejected ballots in our elections. And this is your Election Command Center. So why is this an issue, really? And I'm going to tell you. So follow me closely. Now, to talk about rejected ballots, we're talking about ballots that either as a result of you not folding your ballot paper well, the ink gets onto the other side, and so it gets into the ballot box. During counting, it's identified and set aside. It wouldn't count. Or you thumbprint on a line that crosses into another candidate's box. It's not going to count. If it gets into the ballot box and the sorting and counting is taking place, they'll take it out and put it aside. But this is why it's concerning, and the numbers tell it all. In 1992, 149,813 rejected ballots were recorded in that election. Fast forward in 1996, it reduced a bit to 111,108. We saw a further reduction in the year 2000 102,549,000. That's a combination of both the presidential and parliamentary rejected ballots. In 2004, it rose to 188,123 rejected ballots. And bear in mind, Dennis told us a couple of days ago that people have won elections in this country with the difference of 16 votes. 16 votes, parliamentary elections, 16 votes. So if you see 188,123 rejected ballots, you should be concerned. And then in 2008, it rose to 205,438. Went down a bit in 2012, 153,222, rose to 168,000 in 2016. And guess what? In 2020, we had the highest in our history, 316,997 rejected ballots. And going into this election, there are many who are saying that it may go high, all things being equal, if nothing is checked, because we have a deceased candidate on the presidential ballot paper. This is the notice of poll. It's published by the Electoral Commission for the presidential elections on December 7. We have Equiadonko. The deceased Equiadonko is still on the ballot paper going into this election, as you have it. That's it. There you have it. Right there, number 3, right? And the Electoral Commission says anybody who votes for Equiadonko, the deceased, the late Equiadonko, that vote would be counted as rejected ballots. So you can imagine what's going to happen if there's not enough education. That look, don't vote for DD. Is going to be joining us.
My brothers and sisters, at a time when we are suffering due to the bad policies of the Baumia-led economic management team, leading figure
parliamentary rejected ballots in the 2020 elections, 316,997. Obviously quite concerning. Dr. John Osankopong is the Democracy and Development Fellow at the Center for Democratic Development, CDD. Dr. Kopong, appreciate your time. I know for you at CDD, you've been doing quite some work in this as well. And looking at the data that we put right there clearly tells a story. Is it really about the issue that there isn't so much education ongoing about this issue of rejected ballots?
Yes, thank you again, Alfred, and good evening to your listeners. The issue of the rejected ballots, as you rightly point out, is a public education issue in the sense that a lot of effort has to go into educating the voters across the length and breadth of Ghana on how to properly handle the ballot. So I have watched videos of different political party figures. I even saw one with the former president, educating people on how to handle the ballot and cast their vote. And it's one of those things where tampering the ballot is not the issue. It's the careful folding of the ballot. And even the way the ballot has to be folded, so you take it back to put it in the ballot box and then pick your parliamentary ballot. If it's not done carefully and there's a slight spillover, it is then treated as a rejected ballot. So one, it's a public education issue right there where I believe that a lot more has to be done by the NCC and the EC to educate voters on how to properly handle the ballot, because you have to also then go back and pick your parliamentary ballot as well. I know the political parties are putting in a lot of effort in, again, educating voters on how to cast the ballot. The other thing that I also worry or I wonder about is to what extent or how high have we set the bar to treat a ballot as rejected, right? So if I thumbprint on my preferred candidate and I fold it in a way that there's not even any spillover onto a different candidate, right? But even the wrong folding of it where, let's say, the ink appears on the other side. From what I understand, it is treated as a rejected ballot. So my thing is there a way of reclassifying the rules that guide what we consider as a rejected ballot, right? That if I have thumbprinted the candidate and there's no indication on the ballot that I have thumbprinted more than one candidate, even if I folded it in a different way, can it still be treated as an accepted ballot? That's just one of my speculations of the public education piece, but also the guiding rules around what we treat as a rejected ballot and what we don't treat as a rejected ballot.
Some of the political parties we're seeing, Dr. Kopong, have taken up the task of educating the electorates and the voters on how to fold the paper well so as not to get the ink on the other side, or the process of thumbprinting not being in this case, vertical but horizontal, so that it wouldn't cross the other boxes into the other candidates. Very simple and, in fact, quite glaring mistakes that we've seen contributing to this incidence of rejected ballots over the years. Now, how far-reaching will that be?
I believe it will be far-reaching. Far-reaching also because I know that with the political parties, they actually show like samples or a prototype of the ballot, how it would look like, and so how you go through to select your preferred candidate. The visuals in terms of the videos are very helpful. Also, the face-to-face engagements that the parties do with voters are also very, very helpful. I mean, at the end of the day, not that the EC and the NCC don't have a stake in ensuring that we don't have too many rejected ballots. But you can also understand that when votes are at stake, in terms of who wins and who doesn't win, you can see why it's an issue that the political parties feel even more vested in and are therefore devoting a lot more resources, time in educating voters on how to properly cast and handle the ballot.
Concern about how this decision by the Electoral Commission to classify all votes that would accrue to the late Donko as rejected ballots. It appears the political parties have reached some sort of a consensus on it. And so, yes, they have concerns, but the Electoral Commission says because of the economic consideration, they cannot do much about it. What should be the thinking going forward?
It would, when the election is done and we're looking at the data, right, it would, for me, artificially inflate the number of rejected ballots when we get back to discussing the issue of rejected ballots and how to address it and how to deal with it. I honestly thought that with her demise, the EC was going to remove her from the ballot, even if they were not going to change the order of the candidates on the ballot, that at least they were going to remove her from the ballot. The EC's explanation is that in terms of the cost of the logistics in replacing all the ballots and pre-printing all the ballots, it would have been a little too costly to do that. So leaving on the ballot, there are individuals who may still go and cast their vote for her, even though she's no longer with us. And then it would be treated as a rejected ballot, which in the real sense of the word, it's really not a rejected ballot. The other thing too is with her still on the ballot, right, even after her demise, what if there were some of her voters who post her demise would have considered voting for another candidate? Do you then deny them? Yet probably they can still go and cast their vote for another candidate. But logistically, I'm just not sure whether it was the best decision to leave her on the ballot and treat it as a rejected ballot. But since the political parties, together with the EC, have been able to come to a compromise and an understanding, I guess that's fine and we can all move on.
Rightly so. I thank you very much, Dr. John Osai-Kwapong, for your thoughts on this matter. And it's 9 days, in fact, effectively 8 days to election day, December 7. Will remain your election command center across our media journal platform. Stay with us every step of the way as we build up to election night and everything that's going to be happening for as long as the ballot is being counted, until the last ballot is counted, until the declaration is made, and we know who is the president and who are members of parliament. Stay with us every step of the way here on your election command center. My name is Alfred Okanse. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.